we continue to look at marking out and measurement tools, wasting. The objectives of this section is to recognize and be able to select the correct tools when removing waste material during the manufacture of products. To understand the tool's uses, advantages and disadvantages. Wasting tools. A wasting process is one that produces waste or unusable material by either cutting bits out or cutting bits off. These are the tools used for wasting that you need to know about. The saw, the plane, the chisel, files, drills, and abrading tools. Saws. Saws are used to cut material that is not needed away from the material which is needed. Saw blades have alternate teeth bent out or set in opposite directions. This is so when they cut, they make a gap called a kerf. The kerf must be wider than the saw blade so that the blade cannot get stuck. When using a saw, you should always cut on the waste side of the marked line so that you leave a small amount for finishing by either sanding or filing. Whatever you are cutting, it is important to keep as many teeth in contact with the piece being cut as possible. You should choose the correct saw for the type of material you are using. Table 2.3 on the next page shows the most common types of saws used in school workshops. Name the tool and describe its use. 2 marks. Well, obviously it is a saw. Basic answer, not being able to recall the fact that the tool shown is a tenon saw or that the tool is used for making straight cuts in wood or cutting tendon joints and shoulders. If you're not able to do that, 0 marks. A good answer, which will give you 1 to 2 marks. The tool is correctly identified and named as a tenon saw and or is correctly described as being used for making straight cuts in wood or cutting tendon joints and shoulders. Saws. So we have the various types of saws here. The hacksaw, the junior hacksaw, the tenon saw. Now let's look at the different types of saws. Saw. This is a coping saw. The use is to cut curves in wood and plastic. It has a thin replacement blade held in a frame with the teeth pointing backwards towards the handle. Okay, it looks like a junior hacksaw that's convenient for use in cutting electrical conduit. But this is a wood. This is a wood saw, which is a coping saw. Advantages. Blade can be rotated easily to cut complex shapes and curves. Blades can be removed from the frame so that pockets of windows can be cut out. Disadvantages. Blades easily broken due to their size. Difficult to control when making straight cuts. Blades can be put in the wrong way around. So you should really put the blade of this saw with the teeth pointing backwards. So you do most of the cutting and pulling up instead of pushing down. The tenon saw. The saw most commonly used for cutting wood in the school workshop is 20 to 250 to 350 millimeters long with 12 to 14 teeth per millimeter. It can be used to cut all general joints, specifically used to cut shoulder of tenon in tenon and mortise joint. It says here 12 to 14 teeth per millimeter. Good general purpose woodworking saw. Now the saws that I'm familiar with would be more likely to have 12 to 14 teeth per centimeter instead of millimeters. So it is a good general purpose woodworking saw. The depth of cut limited to the depth of the blade. That's the disadvantage. Dovetail saw. Used for small, accurate work such as dovetail joints. It's shorter than the tenon saw with 20 to 25 teeth per millimeter. Again, this may be an error. I'm more familiar with 20 to 25 teeth per centimeter. The fine, accurate cut is an advantage. It has the smaller teeth make it ideal for finer work. Disadvantage is only appropriate for fine work and it's not robust enough for general purpose work. The adjustable hacksaw, it has a replaceable blade held in the frame. Blades can be angled to cut different shapes, or if the frame gets in the way of the piece being cut, so in that case you can turn the blade at an angle. Blades can vary in length from 250 to 300 millimeters. The teeth face forward and the blades have 14 to 32 teeth per millimeter. This should more or less be per centimeter or per inch. It can be used for fine work or rough cutting out. Advantage, it can be used to make street cuts in plastic and metal. Blades can be removed from frame to cut windows or pockets out. Disadvantage, blades can snap or twist easily. The blades can be put back in the wrong way around. So you should put the blades so that the teeth face forward, so you cut most of the cuts is done by pushing forward. While it says the blades can snap, there are shatterproof hacksaw blades which you can bend backwards to touch the end to end and it still doesn't shatter. But those are more expensive than the ones that can shatter. So the most common types of workshop saws. Support activity. Try cutting a square hole in a piece of plywood. First, drill some holes in the wood so that you can pass the coping saw blade through it. Stretch activity. Try to work out why it is better to have the teeth of the blade facing backwards towards the handle. Right, planes. We're looking at these planes now. Planes are used to smooth wood flat and to reduce to size. A jack plane is longer and heavier than a smoothing plane, which is used for finishing and planing end grain because it is easier to handle than a jack plane. A block plane is the smallest plane and is generally used for removing sharp edges and for putting a small bevel along an edge. So let's look at the different types of plane. You have the jack plane. Smooth and flattens wood to size. Advantage, long and heavy, so ideal for creating a flat surface. Disadvantage, easily jammed if not correctly set. It is heavy. The smoothing plane, which is smaller, it finishing, used to finish, for finishing a surface and for use on end grain. Advantages, ideal for use on end grains due to its length. Disadvantages, easily jammed if not correctly set. Now, to finish the surface means that's the last thing that you're going to do to it, right? You're not going to plane it anymore. You're not going to use a chisel on it. Once you use this plane on it and finish, you say the job is done. So you finish. Block plane. It removes sharp edges and makes a beveled edge. Advantage, it can be used in one hand. Easy to create small bevels. Disadvantages, it's easily jammed if not correctly set. It's not effective on large flat surfaces. So you have someone planing a narrow edge here, planing the end grain here. These are the waste, wood waste falling at the front, planing with the grain. So you can see the grain of the wood being in the drawing. And here's a bench top. The waste wood blocks this from going forward, and the waste would also fall over on it. This is a bench top. It blocks the wood from going forward as you push the plane on it. Apply it. If necessary, Unit 1 make activity. Use a plane in the direction of the grain. When planing the end grain, use a piece of sharp wood to prevent splitting, or plane into the center from both sides. Figure 2.8 shows how to do this. Alright. Chisels. Support activities. List 3 health and safety risks associated with using a firmer chisel in a school workshop. Quick notes. Each wasting tool is used for a very particular use. For example, plane, smooth and finish wood. Chisels carve and cut metal or wood. Abrasing tools remove small pieces of waste. Wood chisel. 4 basic wood chisels are used in the school workshop. The firmer chisel, this one, is a general purpose chisel which has a square edge. A bevel edge chisel, this one, has a beveled blade that allows it to get into corners and is easily useful for cutting dovetails. The mortise chisel now. The mortise chisel has a much deeper blade and is used with a mallet for cutting mortise joint. And the gauge chisel or the gouge chisel. Gouge have a curved blade which are used for carving. Then we have metals. The cold chisel can be used to cut sheet metal, either by shearing across it or by chopping down on it vertically. They have a hardened and tempered cutting edge, while the other end is left soft to absorb the impact from the hammer blows. Different profiles are available, allowing access to corners or for producing droves in the workshop. And the abrasing tool. Abrasing tools remove very small particles of waste, such as those produced by filing. Abrasing tools include rasps, which are used on wood, and subforms. Subforms have replaceable blades. They are formed and operate a bit like cheese grater. So you have the rasp. It looks like a file, but it is much rougher. Abrasive papers are also available for wood, metal, and plastic. Those are sandpapers. Glass paper, sometimes called sandpaper, is used on wood and is made from glass particles stuck on a thick paper sheet. The paper is graded according to how much grit. The paper is graded according to how much grit there is per unit area. Emery cloth is used on metals and plastic and is graded in the same way as glass paper. Any form of abrasing paper is best used wrapped around a cork block. This ensures that an even pressure is applied over the work. So you have the rasp. The use, quick removal of waste wood. Advantages: can be used to file, like a file, to create external curves, wood on flat edges and surfaces. Disadvantages: it clogs up easily. Then you have the surform, fast removal of soft material. Advantage: can be used on a flat or 3D surfaces. Disadvantage: the blades can break easily. So they are common workshop abrasing tools. Then we look at files. We will look at files in a separate video.